About a few days ago, I stumbled across this video by the Improvement Pill, how to start a conversation with anyone. Now considering I just took a year off uni and I'm coming back this term, I kinda need to get back into the social flow of things a bit more, so it's not a surprise that I found this video quite useful. The advice was clear, simple and actionable, and then it hit me. Am I actually going to apply this advice the next time I go out? I mean, everything in the video made sense, and I now knew what I needed to say and do. But how many of us actually apply what we learn? I then stumbled across another video of his in the same series, where he claims that 80% of people don't even use or apply the advice in his videos. It really made me think about my own content, and whether people are not just learning from it, but applying what's being said. I just released the most comprehensive brawl guide on YouTube, and for those who watched my last video, you'll know that I'm working on a dive one too. But I know for a certain fact that players and teams aren't gonna apply every single concept in the video, let alone the most important concepts. It's 2024 and Overwatch has been out for coming up to 8 years now. Back in 2018, Jane was the main pioneer of the educational space, giving a foundation for many educational content creators and coaches to work off. In short, Jane walked so we could run. But as you already know, we're kind of at a point in the educational space where, at least for the fundamentals to get to low GM, you probably already know what you need to do. Type in any hero and there's going to be guides on your hero, there's going to be top 500 streamers who you can watch and learn from on a daily basis, and even if that's not enough, there's going to be a plethora of unranked GM content so you can visually see what playing your hero looks like. We're at the point now where it's really hard to make bad or inaccurate educational content, even if it's a bit inefficient in its explanation. So how are people still complaining about being stuck in elo hell? And why are people in my Discord still complaining about teammates despite being hard stuck silver? Well, the answer is awfully basic. You can't apply. So why is that? Well, there's 4 main reasons, and I'm gonna go in depth on each one. This was inspired by Veritasium's expert video, but you'll see how I apply each concept to Overwatch. Firstly, you're not getting feedback.
Wake up, nigga, wake up. It's time to get the paper.
A great analogy is learning how to drive. Now, I live in the UK, so I'm not sure how differently it's taught across different countries, but by far the biggest thing that's taught is the acronym MSPSL, Mirror, Signal, Position, Speed and Look. If you're at a roundabout and you forget to signal correctly, then you learn from that experience and you make sure you signal the next time. But if you have multiple areas that go wrong, like you entered the roundabout too fast and you didn't check your mirrors, then you would have multiple areas to work on. It's actually why coaching exists. A lot of players actually have the knowledge on how to play their hero, but too many things are going wrong that they can't delegate and prioritize the things that are impactful to their play, as well as being relatively easy to fix. They essentially don't know what leads to the highest ROI or return on investments. When you're learning how to drive, your driving instructor is going to point out the most important areas of your driving. There's even a major and minor point system in the UK, so you can easily differentiate between the more impactful mistakes and the less impactful ones. And it's the exact same principle when learning Overwatch. Your coach will point out the most important areas in your play, and while there isn't always a universal list, the mistakes are still specific to what matters in your play. Obviously, I can't mention coaching without mentioning my own, so if you want to get that, top link in the description. The second reason is that you're not applying your knowledge in a valid environment. In Overwatch terms, this means that you're playing on a Smurf account, or you're constantly queuing with someone, or you're always on an off roll. Essentially, if your goal is to either climb or to improve as a player, or even as a team, you need to have an environment that supports what you're trying to do. This will connect to the last point in this video, but it's why you're never going to improve if you're a diamond player or a diamond team playing against gold players or gold teams. A good amount of challenge is not only normal, but necessary for you to make any meaningful progress. I was actually talking to a friend, and we were talking about how if he wants to actually get better at the game, he needs to spend less time in quick play and custom browser because he's got like 200 hours in customs, since they're not valid environments for growth. Unless they're aim trainers or deathmatches, but that's a different situation. And that actually leads me to the penultimate reason why you can't apply what you've learned, which is either you play the game too much and it affects your health, or you don't play the game enough and you haven't got enough repetitions. You can watch all the videos you want, theorize and analyze as many games or as many comps or as many team fights as much as you want. but you can't think your way to success. Don't get me wrong, consciously improving your play and watching videos like these are probably necessary for most players to help them improve, but it's not sufficient. It's simply not enough to just watch videos and then you magically climb 5 ranks. You also need to have some playtime. Combining with the last point, you need repeated attempts in a valid environment. As a general guideline, I always say to my players to play in 2 to 3 hour blocks at most, then go take a break and go for another block if you're that serious about improvements. And that leads me on to too much playtime. No bullshit, I've coached players who normally play the game for 6 to 8 hours straight, and then they're on 2 to 6 hours of sleep regularly, and they wonder why they can't hit that critical shot on Widowmaker, or why they can't make that correct choice in the heat of the moment. It's not rocket science. That does actually briefly lead me on to health, and while I'm not obviously a health professional, you don't need to be one to tell you to get the basics right. I'm not even going to insult your intelligence and lecture you, because you already know what I'm talking about. The last reason is complacency, whether that's in the form of anxiety, laziness, or a combination of both. Let's start with laziness because that's easy. Everyone wants to do the least path of resistance. And you watching this video know damn well that you should be self-reviewing yourself if you actually want to climb, but most people don't do it because it's boring. And again, this might be linked to the first section of not knowing what to prioritize, but at least give it a shot yourself before you come to a definitive conclusion. You can even watch VODs of your own hero, and my second channel is actually a great place for that. This also links back into smurfing, and why it's probably something you shouldn't do, because it's the most explicit form of complacency. You're playing against players that aren't hard to play against. As for ranked anxiety, we've all heard of that term before, where players are too scared to queue competitive lobbies in fear that they're gonna lose rank. It's actually why there's been some TikToks addressing sweaty players in quick play, because the people who sweat and try hard are too scared to do so in comp.
Don't be a bitch. Don't be afraid of ranked. If you're afraid of ranked, so then you treat quick play like ranked. I'm sorry, but that is just a issue with you being afraid of losing ranked games. So you're taking it out on the poor quick play players.
Can we next already? No, because this is important. Because there is a growing sentiment of people that are like this, and they must be stomped out.
The way you beat ranked anxiety is actually understanding why you even have it in the first place. And that's probably because you tie too much of your own identity to a virtual rank number. And that's actually relatively normal. I know that for myself as a content creator, I can place too much emphasis on how my channel's doing on my own mental states. It's why you have to have other things that you're working on. For me, that's mainly school or uni work, my general coaching of teams and players, and trying to better my social and interpersonal life. Shout out Logan Uri for that book. It's actually kind of the same thing with social anxiety, which stems from a lack of confidence. But if you're doing the right things and having different areas of your life that you're working on at the same time, and you feel like an actually somewhat developed human being, that anxiety is typically going to be a lot easier to overcome. And for those wondering, yes, I did end up applying those tips in the video, and I told myself that I was not going to make this video unless I did. So you already know what to do. It's time to stop learning and start applying. And that's it for the video. As always, let me know your thoughts down below, and until next time.